Hey folks, we are back doing the Phoenix LiveView, and the next step that we're going to take is actually moving this tetromino with the left and right keys. So the first thing that we've got to do is to detect the keys. And let's talk a little bit about how LiveView works. So far what we have is a static view, because all we can do is set some data, and then based on that data we can render a form. When things really start to get interesting is when you start to change that data in by processing OTP events. So we're going to take an inbound event, and I have a keyboard macro that picks it up, and I'm gonna basically look for a key down event, and I'm going to specify which one. Then I'm going to assign the socket just so we could tell if something's working, and let's make that tetromino disappear. Tetromino, and let's basically set that to an empty list. So what's going to happen theoretically is when I press the key here, which we're going to call arrow left, I am basically just going to remove the key altogether. Or I'm going to remove all of the entries that I've specified when I set my new brick up. So recall that we create a new game, and the new game passes to a new block. And in the new block, we set a brick, and we assign that, and we also do a show after that right here. And the show actually sets these points and these are the ones that we actually show in our view. So if we change that list, we should get a change in all the points there as well. So one of the things that we need to do is in this div, I'd like to basically tell Phoenix, inform it of our intentions to take this data. So Phoenix key down is equal to, this is the name of the event that we specified, and I also need to tell it that we're going to specify the whole window as the target. So this is the same as this, and then so basically our inbound event is going to get triggered every time there's a key down event, and that will be fired by the JavaScript, and it'll basically send some data up through the socket. The data that it'll pass is a key of arrow left, and then it'll pass the socket, and we can change it any way that we want to. Initially we'll do something pretty ugly just so that we could see that the key down worked. So now if I press the left, that thing disappears, which is great. So we know that we're actually being triggered. And so let's go ahead and create another one of these, and let this one do. So let's let this one do, let's say assign. I think that basically we're going to do an up. We're going to do a move. And right, and then we'll just pattern match on this thing right here. So this is going to be a left, and here we're going to do a move, and this is going to be a right, and our socket. All right, that's beautiful. So that gives us basically a couple of two tuples. And I like to leave all of the handle events on the bottom. So I'm going to come just over those and specify the actions that are going to do the work. So essentially, we have all the data that we need in the socket. So that's a direction. So this is a direction and a socket. Let's go ahead and call this a move, or an up, or I'm sorry, left. And then we'll build another one of these that's a right. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is reassign the brick. So let's say socket. And then let's say that we're going to basically pass that a function, maybe an anonymous function. So we're going to take the socket, and then we're going to say do move and then we're basically going to do a show on this one. How is our show shaped? So the show took a socket also, right? So so basically it took the brick and then did all the movement or all the rotation that it needed to, and all we're doing right now is doing the left and right movements. So one of the things that we haven't done yet is moved our brick to an individual location. So we'll have to do that within the show. Let's do that now while we have the other function in progress. So recall that we had this API on points, and it was this move to location. It basically took the points, and then we're going to take this location and basically this documentation, this underscore location, the only purpose that serves is to tell us that this is a location. So we're going to do a Tetris points move to location after we actually do the move on the block. So so let's go back to Tetris Live, and this thing is going to be move to location, and we're going to take our brick.location. Beautiful. And so now the Tetris block is going to move around as we need it to. That should do what we need. So the first step that we need to do is the do move, and that's going to take the socket, and we'll basically and this is really a direction, right? Right? Perfect. I don't need this one anymore. So our do move that has a socket and a direction. So if it's up, all I'm going to do is say assign, and the thing that I'm going to assign is basically the individual brick, right? So that's this, and we're basically tracking that brick so that we can make the logical movements independently from actually moving the points around. So we're going to do a brick, and then we're going to do socket.assigns.brick, but we're going to pipe that to Tetris brick dot oh, this is up, and we want this to be left. This is going to be left. That's great. So we do the do move, and I guess we don't have to multi-line that. That looks clear enough to me. Okay, and so we need another one of these for the right. That's right, and that's going to be right. So let's see how this works. Undefined function assign. So this is on Tetris Live 124. 124. So assign, oh, we need assign socket. There we go. And the assign. That's good. Okay, so left, up, and the right is breaking. That's interesting. So the left is working and the right. let's see what we missed on the right. So we're moving right, we're moving right. That looks correct. I bet the problem is when we've done, oh, here we go, right here. So we basically were getting an error because we had an unhandled event. So I think that probably what we ought to do after we save this one, so left, right, and then off the screen. So we'll solve that a little bit later. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so this is our screen is 10 wide. This is working exactly like we want it to. So let's take a look at what's happening up here. There's our div and what's happening down here. So probably a great thing for us to do is to take this and we need to handle the key down that's unrecognized with a socket and just return the socket. So then, oh no, we have to return this, don't we? No reply in a socket. There we go. So we return this tuple. And so now if we fire a keystroke at it that's unrecognized, like this up key or the down key, I'm pressing it right now, if you can hear it, it's going to work fine. So the left and the right work fine. The next job that we should do is probably a rotation. And we'll bind that to the arrow up key. Up. Let's see if this works. Move. Let's call this a turn. Okay. And then we're going to have to do the do move of the turn. And I think that we had a function for this, and I'm not sure what it was. Was it spin or something like that? Don't quite remember, so we'll check it out. And then the brick we had, or was it rotate 90? Left, right, down, print, point, spin 90. That's it. That's what it was. So let's go back here. Let's do a spin 90. Beautiful. Okay. So now we can turn this around. We can turn it left and we can turn it right. Okay. Okay, so what we have now is a Tetris block that, that can move around a little bit. And one of the things that we're not doing is setting a timer and letting that thing go to the bottom. I think that we want to hold off on that little bit of work for just a little bit. I think that probably that's going to be, we're going to wait until we get the bottom figured out. So a couple of things that we need to add to our list. The first one is we can clean up the top of this page, and I wonder if we can provide some type of a clue that that the user is actually in the SVG box. So we'll have to do a little bit of spelunking in SVG for setting a background. Maybe we'll set something that's super light, or maybe this will be a black background. I don't know yet. We'll see how we like it both ways. And the other thing that we could do is scrap this hello. And then we should start working on the bottom chunk. And basically what that's going to do is as the piece falls, once it hits the bottom, we want to transfer the control. We want to move the old brick out of the context and merge it with what's on the bottom. We want to delete the extra rows on the bottom. And then we want to start dropping a new brick. So we'll think about how to make those individual pieces work, and we'll be back in a bit to talk about how we should go about taking those next steps. But I like how things are coming along. Guys, we're back for just a little bit. We're going to tack on one tiny message to the last video. One of the things I'd like you to see is that this background is white and the screen is also white. So what we'd like to do is add a background here. I'm not an SVG expert, so we're just going to drop some inline style. So I know what this looks like. Background, at least I do. I think I do. And maybe this will be something like something like that. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so maybe we'll actually lighten that up just a little bit more. See if we like that. Or maybe with FEs. Or F8s. Like that. See if that's a little bit better. Yeah, that's pretty light. It's kind of subtle, but it's still also interesting. Another thing that I'm noticing is that as I reload this, there's a couple of them. You can see that the space between the horizontal lines is a little bit tighter than the space between the vertical ones. And I think that we can tighten that up just by changing the way that the rectangles are rendered. I think that we can make those render just a little bit taller. See if there's an easy way to do that. So that's a triangle. Here's the square. Yeah, so let's make this height just 1 taller and see if that much works. Yeah, that looks a lot better. You see the lines are a little bit balanced. And it's also got this kind of cool little piece of a little bit, it almost looks like there's a bevel on the bottom. So if I zoom in on this, you can see there's that really cool little bevel. I think I like that. So we're going to keep that in place, and we're going to go with that. So in the next section, what I think I want to do is start to work on the mechanics, the game mechanics a little bit. So we'll go back to our Poncho project, open up the Tetris, get a bottom piece, and then we'll look at how to basically merge things into the bottom and how to do a couple of tests around that. So it's getting fun.